Michael, what about today's audio?
Today, it's a comparison between KEF and B&W speakers.
So, you have KEF speakers too, Michael.
I switched from the B&W 705S2 signature, which I was using as a subsystem, to the KEF R3 Meta. And then I compared the KEF R3 Meta with the B&W 705S3 that I'm using in my main system.
Master, you want to hear about the differences between KEF and B&W speakers too, right?
Yes, I want to hear.
So, which is better, KEF or B&W?
To sum it up, it comes down to preference. If you like crisp highs, then B&W. If you prefer a rich soundstage, then KEF.
What equipment are you using?
The source is Amazon Music. The network streamer is LinkPlay's WM Pro Plus. The DAC is SMSL's Do 300EX, and the amp is Luxman's L505Z.
Is there a price difference between KEF and B&W?
The KEF R3 Meta is 363,000 yen, and the dedicated speaker stands are 99,000 yen. The B&W 705S3 is 563,200 yen, and the dedicated speaker stands are 125,400 yen.
The 705S3 is more expensive.
The list prices are different, but the selling prices are not that far apart. They are both bookshelf speakers and can be considered rivals.
Are the specs different?
Here is a simplified spec sheet. The main difference is that the R3 Meta is a three-way and the 705S3 is a two-way.
At first glance, the R3 Meta also looks like a two-way.
I also thought the R3 Meta was a two-way until I researched it. But the center part of the mid-range is a tweeter, so it looks like there are two units, but it is a three-way. After the R3 Meta arrived, I noticed its size. The specs show both are about the same size, but in reality, there is a noticeable difference.
Is that possible?
The 705S3 has the tweeter on top of the enclosure. The size in the spec sheet measures to the top of the enclosure. Let's compare the two side by side. Here's the front view and the side view. Quite a difference, right?
The R3 Meta is indeed larger.
It's quite tall, so you need to be careful when placing it on a rack or something. It also has considerable depth, so you need to consider the distance from the wall. Moreover, it's 3 kilograms heavier than the 705S3, making it very difficult to install.
Is 3 kilograms really that much of a difference?
When I usually move an amp, even if it's about 20 kilograms, I manage. With an amp, you just take it out of the box and place it on the rack, and you're done. But with speakers, when setting them on stands, you might need to tilt or invert them. At 12 kilograms each, it's tough, and there are two speakers, so it doubles the effort. It's not the same as a 20 kilograms amp. Plus, the R3 Meta speaker stands weigh 6.7 kilograms each, so moving the speaker and stand together means moving almost 20 kilograms. It's challenging. The 705S3 was lighter and easier to install.
Any other differences?
The impedance is different. The R3 Meta is 4 ohms, and the 705S3 is 8 ohms.
What changes with different speaker impedance?
As long as the amp supports the speaker's impedance, it's not an issue. Most amps support 4 to 8 ohms, so it shouldn't be a big concern. However, lower impedance means more load on the amp. Next is the frequency response range. The R3 Meta is 38 Hz to 50 kHz, while the 705S3 is 45 Hz to 33 kHz.
The R3 Meta has a wider frequency response range. Does it mean it can produce more sounds from low to high frequencies?
That's how it looks on paper, but human hearing ranges from 20 to 20,000 Hz. So, the high-frequency range of both speakers is well beyond what humans can hear, so you might not notice the difference. However, the low-frequency range is lower on the R3 Meta, which might give it an advantage in bass.
It's hard to distinguish bass, right?
Yes, human ears are sensitive to high frequencies, but not so much to bass. So, even if the bass frequency ranges differ on paper, you might not notice the difference between the two.
It's more about how the sound feels rather than the numbers.
Exactly. Both were connected via bi-wiring. A unique feature of the R3 Meta is that it doesn't use jumper cables. Instead, you can turn the screw in the middle of the terminals to separate high and low internally.
The R3 Meta looks like a two-way, but is actually a three-way, right?
That's a major feature of the R3 Meta. The tweeter and mid-range appear as one, but are actually two separate units. KEF calls this the UniQ driver. It looks like a single unit, but has separate circuits. With both high and mid frequencies coming from the same location, it improves sound imaging. However, having the units in the same position can cause interference.
Does it solve that issue?
That's the unique part of the UniQ driver. Additionally, the R3 Meta introduces MAT technology. MAT consists of a disc-like structure with 30 different sized and length paths, resembling a maze. By equipping the UniQ driver with MAT, it can eliminate noise behind the tweeter. This contributes to the pleasing mid to high range of the R3 Meta. On the other hand, the 705S3 features a carbon dome tweeter, known for its high-resolution highs.
How did they sound?
The R3 Meta has a rich resonance, aided by its larger enclosure. It makes you want to immerse yourself in music for long periods. Meanwhile, the 705S3 has sharp, clear highs. The mid to high range resolution of B&W is outstanding. It reproduces music with precision. The tweeter on top design, where the tweeter is mounted on top of the speaker, seems to have a significant effect. It's clearly more resolved in the highs compared to the R3 Meta, but it can feel a bit artificial. It sometimes seems like it's trying too hard to make the high frequencies sound good.
Is that what you meant by preference?
I can't say which is more natural, but the R3 Meta has a more overall flat balance. I switch between them depending on my mood since I have both.
What about the appearance of the speakers?
The R3 Meta I have is in indigo gloss, a deep blue, and the 705S3 is in rosewood, a wood grain finish. The R3 Meta is glossier. The deep blue of indigo gloss gives a unique vibe that other speakers don't have. The speaker stand of the R3 Meta matches the color, creating a great sense of unity between the speaker and the stand. Also, the UniQ driver has a beautiful design. The R3 Meta is definitely best used without the grill. In comparison, the 705S3 looks more subdued. Not bad, but not as striking. However, the tweeter on top design of the B&W contributes to its look, making it seem like it will sound good even before playing music. Honestly, the paint on the 705S3 feels cheap. It's hard to believe it's a product that costs over 500,000 yen. If you care about the finish, You'd probably look at the signature models in B&W's 700 series.
If you had to choose between the R3 Meta and the 705S3, which would you pick?
That's a tough question. If you want a rich and flat soundstage, go for the R3 Meta. If you prefer crisp highs, then the 705S3. There's no winner or loser, but if I had to pick one, I'd choose the 705S3.
I see. This comparison gave me a good understanding of the features of KEF and B&W bookshelf speakers. Master, which one would you want, KEF or B&W?
Yes, difficult.